You're listening to the Business and Life Podcast, where 7 days a week, proven entrepreneurs share their success stories, failures, and give you true value on how you can build a great business and an awesome life. With your host, Mike Olivas.
Life listeners, today I'm happy to welcome Cherie Rickard to the show. Cherie, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, something interesting about yourself.
Something interesting about myself. Well, I can't tie a cherry in a knot in my mouth, so I'll have to think of something really creative. So something interesting about myself. I wrote my second book in 30 days.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of practice from the first.
Was that just daily writing every day, sitting down, discipline?
Yes. Actually, it was 2 to 3 hours every night. Wow. From almost midnight to 2 or 3 in the morning for almost 4 straight weeks.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, that's what it takes when it's just silence and you're alone with your thoughts and you can write, I bet.
Yeah. So that's about the only interesting thing I could come up with, although I think my kids would come up with a lot more.
Well, no, I think that's great. That's an awesome fact, and actually kind of props to you on that. What does your company do, and what kind of value does it bring to the marketplace, or what do you do, and what kind of value do you bring to those out there?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects to what I do with my company. My company is called Empowerment is Beauty, LLC, but I also am the host of Real Girl Talk podcast radio, and that kind of entwines with my company because what I do is I have created a Create Your Life, a vision board workshop. I'm huge on affirmations and vision boards to be able to see the images, see where you want to go and focus. And so I hold an annual Create Your Life vision board workshop, which sells out every year. The next one's going to be January 2020. And through that and my published books and my speaking platform and podcast, what I do is I help people regroup and reinvent themselves in life, leadership, community, and business.
That's awesome. Give me some, how long have you been doing this, by the way?
Wow. So my first book came out in 2014. And from there, it just snowballed. It literally snowballed. When the book came out, I started getting bombarded with Facebook inbox was the way people found me because I didn't have a website. I didn't have all those things. I wrote a book, and we can talk about where that came from. But I wrote in a journal for 7 years. And so when the book came out in 2014, and I started getting bombarded with, the inbox messages on Facebook, I also had the local large newspaper give me a call, show up at my door with a photographer, and that turned into, being on Fox and NBC and really talking about the book and where the book came from. So from the book actually came everything else after that.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So give me a little bit, give our listeners a little time of where you hit rock bottom or close to it and how you were able to overcome that rock bottom disaster.
Well, my life was really pretty daggum good. I never had any problems growing up. I was that girl that was always in the pageants and had the friends and everybody came to her for advice and, never had any money issues in my family and everything was going great. I had married and, had a couple of kids. And then my first rock bottom, I would say, was the divorce. And after the divorce, I remarried a wonderful man. Everything's going wonderfully. And in 2007, my rock bottom was a phone call at 2:00 in the morning. And anyone knows that if you get a phone call at 2:00 in the morning, it's not good news, right?
Yeah.
And the voice on the other end was what I recognized to be my husband. And I say recognized because I could barely understand what he was saying. And he was bawling. And the only thing that he got out was the word Bryant, which is my middle son. And call it a mother's intuition, call it a gift from God, call it whatever you want. But I knew instantly at that moment that my son was not here. Not that he had ever done anything not to be here. He was 4.2 grade point average, All-American, baseball player, voted most attractive of his senior class, National Honor Society. No reason for him not to be here, but I knew. Yeah. I knew he wasn't here, and I said, don't tell me. And he said, Bryant was in a car accident. My son was 17. And he said, and he was killed instantly. You need to come home. And I was in California, 2,000 miles away from home by myself in a hotel room, and had to find my way to Memphis, which is where my son was actually killed in a car accident. So when I say rock bottom, I think that's under the rock, right? I think it's not just the rock bottom, but it goes below the surface of the rock that's at the bottom. But let me tell you something, in the greatest tragedies in your life and the worst pains come your greatest power. And that's not a cliche. That's real stuff. Like I said before, I was one of those people that people came to for advice because I seemed to have it, on the outside, everything was just going great. And so, everybody came to me. So I was not going to burden people with my pain. I was not going to be that person to go and be that negative Nancy and tell everyone how horrible I was and be a victim, because I'm not a victim to anything, no matter what tragedy happens in your life. Don't label yourself as a victim. We're not of our labels of what we think we are. No. We are what we say we are. And I began writing. I wrote for 7 years in a journal every single day from the 4 months after my son died on November 12th, which was my birthday. I wrote in my journal for the first time. And I had such a release from that I just kept writing. I'm talking not just pains, but I was angry at God. I hated my life. I sat in bed and ate M&Ms. I call that my drug of choice. I ate M&Ms for 6 weeks. I couldn't work. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I had a 7-year-old child that I couldn't even function to cook dinner for. So that was my rock bottom. But the 7-year journaling turned into that book in 2014. So it's all in timing, right? I believe it's all in God's timing. And that timing was in 2014, 7 years later when the book came out. And in the last 5 years has been absolutely just huge. I mean, just snowballed from the books to speaking events to, I started a live, Real Girl Talk Live, which turned into the podcast, which turned into other books. And it just keeps going and going and going. And that's where I am right now, today.
Tell us, the life listeners, and thank you so much for sharing that. I can't fathom, of course, what that goes through. And with some of the interviewees that we have on the show, we talk about their why, right? We talk about reverse engineering, why they started their company, and our business and life listeners are those that aspire to either be entrepreneurs and or are entrepreneurs. And I think the motivational aspects of it's so important to keep the fire alive here. And so what made that such a detrimental situation in your life turn into a business?
Well, I've always said that a business, when you're wanting to start a business, you're wanting to start anything. I don't care if it's a 501c3, a charitable business, whatever you're doing. And people say, I don't know what to do. I have all these passions that I love. I love to cook and I love to do this and I love to do that. The first thing that I tell them to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to ask yourself, what do you think about all of the time? When you want to think about your why and you want to own it down, what are you thinking about all the time? Where does your mind wander? When your mind wanders, what are you actually thinking about at that time? And that's the first thing you want to do. And write that down. People get away from writing. I think a lot of times we're on our cell phones all the time. And if you want to be on your phone, open your notes and talk that into your notes. And you could do it at the end of the day. Where did my mind wander? And when your mind wanders to something over and over again, that's a clue that that's something that you're interested in and that's something that you might need to hone in on. And then ask yourself, I always say step number 2, what do people always ask you about? Because people are going to see you in a light of something. And it's always like, I can tell when I'm talking to somebody, I'll be like, man, he's got a really great business mind. I can tell. Well, what he needs to know is what I think about him. If he has a great business mind, or man, that guy really knows a lot about real estate, or, that girl would be an excellent coach. Or she's a great cook. She should really teach classes. When people are thinking about you in a certain aspect, ask them, what do you think about me? When someone says my name, what do you think about? And write that down. Now you're going to start matching up step 1 and step 2, where your mind wanders and what people actually think about you. And then I want you to the last step is eliminate what you know that you don't like. Just eliminate those things, because I think sometimes we compare, I always say comparison to other people is the root of all evil, because when you're comparing yourself to someone else in business, whatever that business is, and you go, man, that guy or that woman is really successful, I need to do that. First of all, it's not something you ever thought about. It's not something people perceive you as being good at, and you really don't like it. You just like the money aspect of it. Eliminate it. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because when you're in business, or you're in an organization, whether in a charitable event, whatever it is that you're pouring your heart into, if it's not something that you're talented and gifted at and comes naturally and you love it, and people perceive you as being good at that particular title or thing, toss it away, because it's going to go as fast as you start and you invest money into it, it's going to go out the window. Just that quick.
Life Nation, we're all striving towards different goals. Maybe your goal is to finally quit the 8 to 5 grind, quit your job, or take the next step with your existing business. Whatever the goal may be, regardless of your reasons, if you are serious about taking the next step and finally trying to build the life that you deserve, the life that you want to live, take the leap of faith. Go to michaelleibus.com and let's discuss your goals and life. It's 100% free. There's no obligation. It's MIKEOLIVAS.com. Schedule a quick call. I'd love to help. No, Cherie, I think you're absolutely right. Those are really good points. Those are great 4 value bombs there, listeners. What are you thinking about? Jot it down, right? That's really powerful, and it's not hard, but guess what? A lot of people don't do it, and they should. It's really important, whether your state of mind is walking on the beach or you're at the gym when your serotonin levels at an all-time high. Think about what you're thinking about. And it's hard to be conscious of that sometimes. A great book called As a Man Thinketh. And really, it's life's what we think about, right? And so understanding your thoughts, sometimes how to control those, that book actually helps with that. I control those thoughts and make sure they turn into positive ones. But another one was ask people what they think about you. That's great advice. And it's really maybe awkward, but you got to become uncomfortable to get to a comfortable aspect of your life. And I think that's really important that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, maybe even if it's a family member, right? Or maybe a recent friend that you just met. What do you think about me? What do you think I'll be good at? Sometimes that's really good advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. And eliminate what you don't like. That is great. Great value bomb there. What do you not like to do? Because if you keep doing that, and whether you're starting your business or you're working somewhere that you don't like to do something, can you outsource that or delegate that to somebody else? Because it's so easy to get not motivated, or unmotivated, I'm sorry, and just stop. That's how sometimes people give up, which kind of leads me into my next question. Why do you think, there are so many entrepreneurs out there that give up on their business and dreams?
I once heard, and I don't know who said it, so I can't give them credit on this, but it's called the ACE method. The ACE method is, number 1, authenticity. I think a lot of people give up on their dreams because they're not being true and authentic to themselves. And that goes back to the other 3 steps that we were talking about. Trying something just because it's a money factor and not because it's a passion factor. Whenever you're in your passion and you're working in your passion, it never feels like work. When it feels like work, it's probably not your passion. It's just something that you're doing to earn money. Yeah. And listen, we can't all be entrepreneurs and go into business. I work in the corporate world. Just so your listeners know, I do very, very well, and I'm not giving that up. I mean, multiple 6 figures in the corporate world. I'd be crazy. It doesn't feel like work to me, right, because I'm passionate about what I do in the medical corporate industry. I love it. But I also have a passion for writing and speaking and my podcasting, which also makes me money. So why would I give up any of those things? None of it feels like work. The minute any one of those things starts to feel like work, I'm going to throw it away. So number 1, when we're talking about the ACE method, A is for being authentic. I'm very authentic in what I do with my work, whether it be in my corporate industry or in my personal passion work. That's what I do. I never feel like it's work, and I'm very authentic. The second one is the C, and that's consistency. A lot of people give up because they don't see results right away. And they say, well, I've done this for months, or I've done this for a whole year and I don't see anything. I mean, I haven't made that much money. I'm spending more money than I'm making. They're not consistent, so they throw in the towel. Listen, I wrote in a journal for 7 years with no idea that it would turn into a book. I had someone come to me, one of my sons that passed away, his friend came to me. He said, Miss Cherie, You need to turn that journal into a book. Think of how many people and how many moms that you would help that don't know how to get through the grieving process.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on another book on grief to talk about just the healing aspect, because the first book was so much about my story and about being a grieving mom, but I also bring in some healing aspects that I feel like I need to have a sequel to that on just healing. And so I didn't know in those 7 years, you can't give up on your dreams. If you really have a passion for something and it's bringing healing to you and you know it's going to do something for someone else, make sure you stay consistent. And then E is excellence. Excellence. Everything that you do in your passion, make sure that you're treating it and you're attacking it with excellence. Don't half-ass anything. When you're half-assing, then that's what you're actually giving the people. So, and another thing I always talk about besides the ACE method is always go from an aspect of selling to serving. Anytime in your business, if you look at what you're doing as serving someone, right? If you're in a business to serve, then people look to you for that service, that product. But when you're constantly on social media selling and selling and selling, people don't want to be sold to. They want to be served to. So you have to give away as much free content as you do content that you charge for. And I'll tell you right now, I'll just give a little props here. In podcasting, everyone knows who Pat Flynn is. Pat Flynn is a podcasting guru, right? Well, when I started podcasting, the first thing I did is I looked up Pat Flynn, got on one of his free webinars, which gave so much valuable information, I would have paid for it. But it was a free webinar. Yeah. But what I did, because I got so much value from Pat, from that free webinar, I bought his course for $800.
Right.
So that's the thing. You have to be able to serve. And I think a lot of people step back and they go, oh, I don't want to give all my content away. Then what would I sell? Take all of your content and take the first 25% of it, give it away for free, because they will buy the remaining 75%.
The best 25% of it, give the best 25% of it. And that's going to be your best value added driven, in terms of, let's say, ROI. But yeah, you definitely want to show value out of the gate. Those are great points. I think to break it down, it's authenticity, consistency, and excellence. Authenticity is be real. If you're not real, it's going to show. It really does. I mean, it'll show in the long run. It'll show in your bottom line. It'll show in your numbers. And as a coach, and I know you do coaching as well, I think that was the best advice I was given by my coaches and my advisors, is that if you're not real, whether it's on your video advertisements or on your video calls or on your podcast, if you're just not real and yourself, you're not going to win. If you're trying to do someone else's gig, you're trying to be someone else that you probably don't mimic them, be yourself, and people will gladly open up and click and see what you have to say if they resonate with you. And guess what? You're not going to resonate with everyone, and that's okay. But some will knock on your door, because there's, at least in my world, let's say the advertising niche is how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of English-speaking business owners are out there that I can help. Same thing, there's a lot, and some may resonate with me, and some, may resonate with Cherie, and that's great. And so at the end of the day, is if you're not willing to be authentic and be comfortable enough with yourself, that's not going to resonate and I think really touch anybody. Consistency, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, guys. That's really important for these listeners to understand, is that Cherie wrote 7 years in a journal, and her son's friend's advice gave her like, hey, maybe you should do something with this. Maybe other people might want to see what your true thoughts and feelings are. And 100%, then it creates a business. It sparks a passion to Cherie, and now that she's doing what she's doing because she loves it, that's why it works, because she loves it. And the excellence aspect is you're as good as your own personal goals and really your own personal standards. Excellence is really where your standards are. Where are your personal standards, and don't shy away from those. Don't have any baby stepping backwards when it comes to your standards. Set that standard high and keep shooting for the stars, and shoot for the moon, you'll land on the stars, right? And so, right. Give me the name of your books really quick, Cherie. That way the listeners know.
So the first book is Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey. My second book is Healing Your Wounded Spirit, which is about broken friendships, relationships, divorce, as well as grief. And my last book is called Strong Women, How to Live an Empowered Life Through Adversity. And it goes in just that, how to live empowered no matter what your adversity is. But it also goes into confidence building as well as business tips.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much for sharing that. And give our listeners a little bit about what you're excited about right now in terms of your business and life right now.
You know, I'm always excited about something because if we're not, we're just stagnant, right? But I think right now I am super focused. My podcast, Real Girl Talk, has really taken off tremendously. And at the beginning, you know, I'm a talker. I love to talk. And that's why I like getting on stage and speaking, because I always feel like I have something to say, whether no one's listening or not. But with the podcast, it was so amazing that I had just a few guests on the show. And then after that, I started having agents reach out to me with their clients. And I'm talking CEOs, business owners. I've had multiple celebrities, Bravo reality TV celebrities. I just had an interview. It aired yesterday with Emily Simpson. She's on the Real Housewives of Orange County. We had an amazing podcast interview. I have some wonderful interviews coming up all the way through the end of the year. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about, like I mentioned, my Create Your Life Vision Board Workshop is in January 2020. And this is where we sit in a room, a bunch of women, we sit in a room and we really create our image for the new year. We have a word for the year, which mine this past year was called favored. And I have truly been favored all year with everything that I've done, because I think you can manifest that and you can prophesy that into your life with your prayers and your meditation, or however you bring your positivity into your life. That's how I bring mine. But I'm also super excited about my next book that's going to be launched in November. And it's kind of a little different. It's a workbook. It's a 30-day devotional journal and vision workbook where I help people in 30 days create their vision, but I also pray with them for 30 days. Awesome. It's prayers and it's a workbook, and it really helps you set your 2020 on just an upward, just straight up the ladder, as high as you can go in those first 30 days. And that's going to go on sale in November. And then also my online courses, Writer's Roadmap, where I teach people how to write a book for free.
Awesome.
I tell you how to write, create your book cover, how to publish it, and all of that you can do for no cost, except for a very small $197 for the course. Everything in the course, I will show you. Your book will be on Amazon, and I'll also show you how to market it for free.
Where can we find that?
Well, it is actually going to relaunch. I only launch that course twice a year, in the spring and the fall. And I'm not sure the exact date, but if you go to my website, which I can give them before we get off, then they'll be able to join the mailing list, because it is going to launch in about 2 or 3 weeks. And then it's only available for 2 weeks. And we close down the course, and it's not available again until the spring of 2020. So I have a lot of cool things, things coming out.
A lot of cool things you're excited about. And before we forget that and go to our last question, where can people find you? Sure.
So my website is probably the best way. It's my first and last name, CherieRickard.com, and it's CherieRickard.com. And then, of course, on social media, I am Real Girl Talk Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Business and life listeners, I started this podcast to really do some things that I feel like I've been able to do in my personal life and business, which is build a life you want to live. And some of my clients and people I chat with are, how can we do that? How can we reverse engineer that? Tell some of our listeners, or all of our listeners that are listening right now, how you've kind of been able to build that life for yourself. What is the light at the end of the tunnel for you, and or what kind of active advice would you give them, to our listeners and potential aspiring business owners as well, and entrepreneurs to get there?
I like that you said light at the end of the tunnel, because if I could give one piece of advice, one thing that you have to do is create that light at the end of the tunnel and see it over and over and over every day while you're enjoying where you are right now. Because I think so many times that we get stuck in creating and wanting to serve and sell and make money and do all these things. We absolutely forget where we are in the moment in each day. So yesterday, for instance, I was running crazy. I had several meetings. I had 2 podcast recordings, but I knew the most important thing of my day yesterday was celebrating my daughter's 32nd birthday. And I knew our family was getting together and we were celebrating her. It wasn't about me and everything that I was doing, it was about serving her. So I think, and we did. When I went to dinner and my family sat down, I did not think about anything that I was doing. I didn't think about what I was going to be doing the next day. I'm jumping on a flight today. I didn't think about any of those things. I didn't even pack last night, because what I did is I focused just on the here and now, which was my family. And I think we forget that. We can really keep that light and keep that image of where we want to go, but never forget where you are and who you're spending it with. Get your nose out of your phone and actually have a conversation with someone.
Yep, absolutely. Out of all these successes and failures in your business, what is the one piece of parting advice that you'd give to the Business of Life Nation out there?
Something that I did not do at the very beginning, and I give this advice over and over, is invest in yourself. If there is someone that you admire and you aspire because you have that passion to do what they do, invest in yourself and hire them as a coach. If you're going through something tragic in your life and you need counseling and you need coaching to help you get through those things, hire that coach to get you through adversity. Whatever it is that you're in your life, whether you're growing a business or you're struggling through something, maybe you just went through the divorce, maybe your husband walked out on you yesterday, maybe you found out your wife was cheating last week and you can't think about your business. Whatever it is that you're going through right now, stop what you're doing, invest in yourself, pull yourself back up, invest in coaching, invest in someone doing that website for you, invest in whatever it is that you need to do to make yourself go higher and quicker. And I did not do that at the beginning, and I do not advise doing it my way.
That is great advice. Thank you so much, Cherie, for being on the show. Thank you for your message and everything that you're doing for your community.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Life Nation, you got to remember that in order for things to change, you must change. And in order for things to get better, you must get better. You just got better by hanging out with me, Michael Liebus, and the Business and Life Nation. So come back tomorrow because I'm here dropping sound bombs 7 days a week, baby. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, so you can take action and execute. See you tomorrow.